If you've ever seen incredible motorcycle footage on YouTube that you just can't figure out how on earth it was filmed, then it was probably shot on a 360 camera like this. They don't look like much, but they are revolutionizing the way that we can relive our best rides. So today I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know so that you can get your own incredible 360 footage. I'm coming up on 2 years of filming 360 video, and I can now get much better footage in much less time than I could 2 years ago. All because I have a much better understanding of how to go about filming with these cameras. And that is probably the first thing you need to know about these cameras. They do have a learning curve because they need to be treated a little bit differently to a GoPro. Now obviously the filming side of things and most definitely the editing side of things have a learning curve, but what most people don't realize is that even watching 360 video has a bit of a learning curve because it's unlike anything we've seen before. Now obviously we're more exposed to it now than ever before, but I remember probably about 3 years ago when 360 video first started popping up on YouTube. I remember seeing it in someone like Yun Olsa's vlogs, and I remember absolutely hating it because I just couldn't wrap my head around it or how it worked. It is very disconcerting at first, but when you get used to seeing it more regularly, it's very immersive and entertaining. But anyway, let's start at the beginning. The way I see it is you have 3 choices. First, you have the GoPro Max, GoPro's version of a 360 camera. Second, you have the Insta360 ONE X2, Insta360's best 360 camera. And lastly, there's the Insta360 ONE R, which can basically be a regular action camera or a 360 camera simply by swapping the lenses. Now, it might seem like the ONE R, the camera that can do it all, is the best option, but that's not always the case. It is a great camera, but personally, I think dedicated devices are always better. So if you want a regular action camera, buy a GoPro. And if you want to shoot 360, buy a 360 camera. But please don't buy a 360 camera with the intention of using it for motovlogging. And by motovlogging, I mean strapping it to your helmet to shoot POV video. Yes, it will do it, but not as well as a GoPro because that's not what it was made for. Full disclosure, Insta360 have sent me 3 different cameras in the last 2 years, so I could definitely be biased. But I will tell you the truth. After Insta360 had sent me the first camera, it was the first time I'd ever tried out 360 video. And I really liked it. It was well received on YouTube, and I figured that 360 video might be a good thing to add to my own videos. I automatically assumed that the GoPro 360 camera would be better than this because I'd always been a GoPro fan when it comes to action cameras. However, when I started to look into it and watch side-by-side comparisons of the 2 cameras, I realized that the Insta360 had better looking footage, had better looking colors, shot at a higher bitrate, and even had a slightly higher resolution. So as it turned out, I already had the best 360 camera. With that being said, Insta360 cannot figure out audio, especially at motorcycle speeds, no matter what they try. And all of this could change tomorrow if each company bought out a new camera, but these are the facts at this second. Although mounting a 360 camera should be done a bit differently from the action cameras that you're used to, it's actually easier. In fact, there are only 3 things to remember. Always keep the camera in line with the mount. I'm sure you've seen the invisible selfie stick where the camera completely gets rid of the stick. Well, that's because it's thin enough to be out of the shot and always in line with the camera. So the thinner your mount is, the more likely it will be out of the shot. The best mounts for this are clamp mounts like this, or adhesive mounts because they're thin. Try to avoid wider mounts like a suction cup, but it is sometimes the only option for superbikes with aerodynamic fairings, in which case, just try to keep the suction cup in a direction you don't plan on wanting to see on camera. Position the stitch line, not the lens. The stitch line is where the two 180-degree videos meet to form the 360-degree video. And if that line is too close to an object, it will mess up the seam. So if you have the choice to point the stitch line at the bike, which is close, or at the sky and the ground, which is further away, always choose the further away option so it doesn't mess up the seam. And remember, it films in every direction, so don't worry about having a lens pointing at the action, it makes no difference. Forget about making things level. 360 cameras automatically level the horizon, so focus more on mounting the camera safely and in a good position than keeping the camera level, because it will do that job for you. And that is pretty much that. As long as you follow those few steps, your footage will be as good as can be. And as soon as you shake your old bad action camera habits, like leveling the camera and pointing a lens at the action, it will actually be easier and faster to set up a 360 camera. Then, the trick is to simply have fun with it and put the camera in places you normally wouldn't. Lower to the ground makes everything faster, with the ground whizzing past. Poles of all types are your friend to make the camera look detached. Chest mounts are 10 times more entertaining with a locked horizon, and get ridiculous connecting every mount you have together. It's as easy as pressing the record button. But to get the best out of your camera, you might want to change a few settings during your initial setup. Firstly, make sure your resolution is the highest it can go. I set my frame rate to 24 because it's natural looking, but play around with it and see which one you like best. Then set your exposure to auto so the camera can compensate for changing conditions. I like the camera to overexpose by half or one stop over, which just means it will make the video slightly brighter. This usually works well for bikes because if the camera is mounted on the side of the bike, the sky will be bright and the bike will get brighter and darker depending on where the light is coming from. The poor camera is trying to perfectly expose for every single direction and can sometimes make the bike too dark. So I'd rather the sky was a tad bright than the bike too dark, but it's all up to personal preference. White balance can be set to auto because it actually does a good job at this. And finally, set your picture profile to standard to get the most natural looking shots. And that's the last time you'll need to play with these settings. Remember earlier on when we saved a bit of time while mounting a 360 camera? Well, this is when you lose all that time. Because instead of deciding what the camera sees while you're out riding, you get to make that executive decision from the comfort of your own home. What you do with your footage depends on what you want out of it. If all you want is the memories captured, and to go back every few months to relive them, then I'd suggest getting the Insta360 PC app to view the footage. You can then simply use the mouse to look around. If you want to share a short clip to Instagram or TikTok, then the Insta360 smartphone app will be easiest. It offers templates that will quickly make you a decent video to share. Or you can manually do it yourself. You can insert your own keyframes to set which direction you can watch at which point in the video. And you can use the same technique to create movements like this with a bit of practice. However, the easiest way is probably the ability to use your phone as a viewfinder. Simply turning the phone to look in the direction you want when you want. And all of these movements will be saved in the video for you to export. All of these features are also available in the PC app, except the viewfinder mode since that might be tricky. Personally, I use the PC app since it complements my workflow of editing a YouTube video. It's a bit slow having to edit the clip in the Insta360 app, export it, and then using it in another piece of software to make a YouTube video, but I have gotten a lot faster at it. But this step is where you can take advantage of 360 camera's features. You suddenly have 3 different angles from mounting the camera in one place. It levels the horizon for you like MotoGP onboard shots. You can have silly effects like Tiny Planet and look like you've had a cameraman follow you around all day, never getting in the shot. The biggest letdown of 360 cameras has got to be their resolution. Yes, they shoot at a massive 5.7K, but the problem is that once that has to be cropped down to a traditional view, it's only about 1080p. Which is funny because just a few short years ago, Full HD was considered perfectly acceptable. And now, I can't wait for 360 cameras to up their resolution. But anyway, share your 360 camera tips down in the comments and the best places to mount them to get awesome shots. Hit the like button if this video helped you out at all, and I'll see you on the next ride.